Academy members and guests. Sunday, we are doing the red light is officially on. See you back there. We have a red light series on Sundays. Thank you for joining us. And thank you very much for those who sent me the videos. And I've also scoured some videos. I'm going to try and get through at least 3 of these tonight. If we have more time, we'll do a couple of more. But these 3 videos, from what I can see, are pretty good because I think they're going to help encompass. I hope that's a word. They're going to help us out and learn about what a pure shank is. Actually, I don't think it's a pure shank. I think the one on the left is supposed to be pure and the one on the right is supposed to be a shank. And it's not really a shank. It comes off the toe, as you can see it flare open. But let's get started. Let's figure this out and let's learn together. If you do have questions that come up, let me put up my comments over here. What's up, Landry? Thanks a lot. I don't know if this is you on the screen right now or not, but if not, welcome and let's learn together. So what we're going to do is decide, what is cause and effect. And for those that are new to this channel is all about cause and effect. What happens in the golf swing is so individualized, it is really impossible to go down this YouTube rabbit hole to try and figure out what works, what doesn't. Yeah, you can try and do it, and there has been people that have done it successfully, and that's fine. But is it going to be working for you? I'm not too sure. Realistically, what's cool about this, and this is just to show you here, is the one on the left, one on the right. Obviously, the one on the left felt good. The one on the right was not a good shot. Not you, Landry. Okay, well, you're up next, Landry. You got to send me some videos. But you can see that if we just go back and forth, it's really hard to see what's different. And obviously, we have 2 completely different impact positions. That's just to show you like how minuscule this game is. It's a game of inches. So if you are off an inch here or there, you can have a great shot or hit a bad shot. So don't get too caught up with perfection because there's no such thing as a perfect swing. So let's just focus on the one on the right because that's the one that is missed. And what we're going to do is draw some plane lines here, take a look at the setup, look at the posture, look at the weight distribution because I do see an issue with the weight distribution. Let's draw the spine angle. Should we do Barney Purple? Let's do Barney Purple. There's Barney Purple. Hopefully you guys can see that. But Barney Purple's hit or miss. Some people love him. Some people hate him. Back brace line. And also let's do a centeredness line right from the arches of the heel straight up to the sky. And already we can start to see something that might be an issue. Hey, Steven, what's up? This is you. Welcome. Hopefully, I don't know when you got joined on, but hopefully if you missed the intro, we can go back and watch it again. But Steven, we're looking at your swing and we're looking at your setup. And what I see, typically when you're setting up, you want to make sure you are centered on your plane lines. And right now, you're a little bit too toe heavy. And by centered of the plane lines, what I mean is if you take a look at the circle here, we'll draw this right there. That's basically where the center of your plane line is connected to your spine angle. And right now, the center of your feet, you can see they're not being supportive. They're not supporting each other, right? So your feet are now supporting behind your plane line. And so you're going to be a very toe-based individual. I go 5.5 holes 3 times a week, every second week, unless it's winter. You golf 5.5 holes 3 times a week. Hey, that's more than I golf in a year. I think I maybe spend, 5 times a year. I'm lucky to get out. So I'm jealous of you, Mike. Thanks for joining us. So Stephen, if we take a look at where the centeredness, watch your toes because the toes is what's going to tell us throughout the whole golf swing. So right at impact, if you can see your left toes on the ground, but watch your right toe. Look how the right toe we're going to catch us up here, there. So the right toe is going to spin there, right there. So you can see how you're stuck on your toe, right? So typically when you have an typically when you have bent over too forward, you have an upright motion. Now, people that are on the upright motion typically play on their heels. If you are standing taller, you might also have an upright motion with your hands and arms, but when you are taller, you play on your toes. Now, I'm taking a look at the way you set up, and you are definitely having a little bit too much bend. And if we want to take a look at how much bend you actually have, and you said this is a 4-iron. So 4-iron, I don't think you need this much bend. And what we're looking at is the number here, right there, straight down. So you're at about 130 degrees. Now, why is that important? Because as you bend forward, you have to make sure your shoulders tilt relative to that number. Now, if you lose tilting, that's going to adjust your plane. And with you already being a toe based swinger, if you start adjusting your plane, you're going to be in some issues throughout your whole golf swing. Never caught you live. Our golf hole 6 is a par 3. T-box. Where is this? Fort McMurray? Not sure where that is. Let me know where that is in the comments. Good job, you walk. I wish I walked more. I can barely walk to the cart. Okay, so if we take a look at this, you take that club back. Watch your shoulders, Stephen. So as you take it to the top here, your shoulders should be, I'm going to draw a blue line. We'll get rid of some of these lines. Let's actually get rid of these. Okay, so you look at the blue line. So the blue line is where your shoulders should be. And blue line is going to be perpendicular to our Barney purple line. So it's basically 90 degrees from that spine angle. Oil sands of Canada. Oh, I never played in Canada. I've got to get up there. That's one of my bucket lists. So send me some links to some good golf courses in Canada. I live in Southern California, so not too far. I don't want to have to fly all the way up to Northern Canada. But take a look at your shoulders now. If we get to the top here, you are going to be, let's do it in orange. So this is where your shoulder tilt is. So basically, your right shoulder is kicking up, your left shoulder is kicking lower. So you are now changing your plane. Because if you take a look at the top of your swing, let's delete these right here. If you take a look at the top of your swing here, you managed to get below your secondary plane line. So the secondary plane line is that short red line at the top. Because it's below, because you have leveled your shoulders out. So now all of a sudden you've taken a starting position, you haven't maintained your posture. That lifting up of the shoulders drops your hands in between the planes. So visually, okay, I'm in between the planes. But now we've got some issues because once you have a flatter shoulder tilt with a flatter plane, you might feel the need to reroute this. So if we take a look, when you start to lose shoulder tilt, you actually increase your shoulder tilt down at impact. And why is that? Because basically you are going to be tilting down. So this left shoulder is going to be tilting down sooner because it's closer to the ground, right? Now let me see if I can make sense when we get down this. Let's do this here. So as you come on down, you can see your left shoulder, as you strike it just past impact, it actually gets a little bit too much tilt right here. Now, this is because you've changed the tilting. And it's also avoiding the correct weight shift. So you're stuck on your toes. And then as you finish, watch how short your finish becomes very compact because you lack correct turn, because the shoulders tilted too much down. So you tilted too much down. You couldn't quite turn all the way through because you had more tilt. And now everything finishes closer to your body. And you have kind of a tight finish. You don't see a lot of rotation through because you're so busy trying to stay upright because your weight's so much on your toes. Now, to sort this out, to make it seem a little bit more simple here, hopefully it didn't lose you in all that. Let's clear this out. Let's look at your shoulder tilt number. So we're going to do a position here. Now, what would really help me, Stephen, if you have some time, is send me a face on, because some of this could be a result of your ball position and where your ball position is relative to your center. And if you're shifting the ball position around, it could play some havoc. So right now you're at 34 degrees. As you get down through to impact, we go one frame right there. Oh, look, you can't even get the tilt. So one more frame. Let's see where that will go. There. Now we are at 55. Okay, so you actually do a pretty decent job. Let's see how far you go down, though. Okay, so it's decent. I was expecting more tilt, but you don't have as much tilt as I was thinking. However, you would like that still to be in about the 45-degree range for you because you level out your shoulder tilt. And the reason why you level out your shoulder tilt is because of the weight distribution. So I think to help you out, long story short, is let's get you back to here. Let's get you set up a little bit differently and try this. Now, keep in mind, this is free advice, right? So free advice, Stephen. Don't send me an email or reach out to me and say, hey, I tried your advice and I actually did shank it 10 times in a row. But this is what I would do if I was working with you. So we'd have to look at where your centerness of your arches are. And we're going to build your setup from that. So maybe stand a little bit straighter in the legs. Now, I don't know, you might have some issues with your back of your legs not being flexible enough. I don't know what you do for a living. If you sit at a desk all the time, maybe you're kind of stuck. I'm tracking everything you lay down. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Steve. So it depends on how flexible you are back over here. But if you're capable of this, straighten your knees up so they're not dead straight, but you want to straighten them up. Straighten your spine angle a little bit because that's going to bring your plane closer to you and it will actually start making connections with your setup. So by this, we would like our plane to be a little bit here. So if we have straighter legs, the plane will get closer to you because your hands will be closer to you. We're not adjusting the angle of your plane. We're just getting you to be a little bit taller. And that will help you now stay a little bit closer to your spine angle. So if this is your spine, let's say you're standing a little bit taller, your spine angle will be closer to here. Now all of a sudden, your X is closer to your centeredness. From that position, your next step is to learn to stay relative to your spine, not to lose tilting. Because if you lose tilting, game over. Now you've just got to compensate. And I would imagine that you are a pretty good player when you play a lot, when you hit a lot of golf balls. But if you're not able to do that, it's hard. I'll give you a good example. Vijay Singh. Why do you think Vijay Singh had to hit thousands of golf balls a week from sunup to sundown to maintain that number one ranking that he achieved in the mid 2000s, back when it was him, Duvall, and Woods going back and forth? To get that level, to be able to achieve that consistency with his swing. If you take a look at his swing, yeah, it's beautiful, it's rhythmic, but take a look just past impact. His right hand comes completely off the club as he flicks through. So he has a very unique swing, but he has to hit thousands of golf balls to maintain it. If you, Stephen, if you can go and hit thousands of balls a week, you can get away with this. It just comes down to hand-eye coordination and athleticism, which you look pretty athletic and you look like you have good hand-eye coordination. But if you can't, if you're stuck with like one bucket a week, maybe a round of golf every couple of weeks, you're going to suffer. So this is all setup based. GASP, grip, alignment, setup, posture. Always look for those four things first before you attempt to change anything, because how your swing is evolving now is based on what you give it to work on. If you're giving it a setup where it forces you to stay on your toes and figure out a way to hit a golf ball, you'll do it, and you can do it. Look at the guy on the left side. It's a pure shot. But the guy on the right side is the same swing, but it just wasn't quite perfect. And your problem with your swing is it's a game of inches. So if you're off a few inches here or there, man, it's too touchy. All of a sudden, you just hit one that's off the toe or off the heel. You shank it. It's out of bounds. You can't get your scoring consistent enough with those type of misses. So I hope that makes sense to you. 100% nailed it. I unfortunately can't golf as much as I'd like. When I get home, I play well. I hear you. I know, having a full-time job, running academies with a family, I hardly get to go out, and I don't even think I've hit golf balls to practice. I just go to the first tee and play quick nine whenever I can. I completely lower my expectations now. I don't even think about shooting what I could have shot 10 years ago. I just say, hey, look, I'm just going out to enjoy the sun and hit a few golf shots here and there. But if you want to get any better, you really have to give yourself a swing that doesn't require as much work to maintain that swing. And part of that is just developing a pretty much more consistent, fundamentally sound setup. And if you have a fundamentally sound setup, you as an athlete will learn how to hit the golf ball more consistently. You don't have to worry so much about your golf swing. But if you have this set up, now you have to worry about your golf swing as well. So give that a try. Hopefully that helps. If you have any other questions, just shoot it to me while I breeze back and forth through these comments. If not, you can always reach out to me through email. But try it out. Go through those changes. Take another video, send it to me. I want to do like a before and after just with you as well. It'll be really cool to see. So let's see who is next. We have somebody here. I haven't seen the swing. I just popped it up here. Let's zoom this in. All right. Did you guys see that? So another setup issue. Yeah, you see that lack of turn on the way through? And you can tell this person is athletic again, but their body's going against itself. And same sort of thing. Look at the toes when they finish. So we got one toe up in the air, way up in the air. The heel's trying to receive the weight on the left side, but it doesn't look like he's driving anything. It just looks like he's turning to stay out of his own way. So let's figure out why he's trying to stay out of his own way. And we got to use Barney Purple more. He's just been in the shadows as of late. Let's make sure this is, there we go, right through the ears. Let's draw the plain lines. I think somebody mentioned we should call this mean green. So for now, we're going to call it mean green. Now, if you take a look at this area, so lower plane line, upper plane line, we have a pretty big amount of real estate. Now, you might say, okay, that's a lot of room to work with. This should be a pretty good thing. However, it can become a point where it's too big. And now we look at why is it so big? We don't want too big of an area because that could be a setup flaw. And we also don't want too small of an area, especially if you're trying to just be a weekend warrior. Like we've got to find that middle section. And we take a look at this little area between his hands and his knees. Okay, there's some spacing here. But now let's take a look at where his center is based on this arches of the heel up to the sky. Now we see the opposite of our guest, Stephen, before. We see the heels more towards the golf ball. So now he's going to be sitting back on his heels, and he might have that to work with as you're trying to swing rotationally. Now remember, the golf swing is rotational, right? So we have to give it a steady axis. If your axis is moving all over the place, it's like the earth axis. If you change the axis, you're going to change the seasons of the weather. Same thing with the golf swing. If you change your axis of your golf swing, hey, man, there goes Mrs. Havenkamp in the pool. You're going to hit her right in the head with a golf ball or hit somebody out of bounds on the left side because the axis is not there. You are giving your hands and arms, the final line of defense, a good position or a bad position. And if your axis has changed, guess who is the last line of defense to try and save that golf ball? Is your hands and arms. So I see so many people trying to get your hands and arms, and they're working on their hands and arms without asking themselves, why are my hands and arms all over the place? You got to take a step back and look at what are the cause for the hands and arms trying to save you. They're trying to do their job. But if you give them a bad place to do it, it's going to be a tough thing. So if we take a look here, we can also see again, look at this. So the same sort of issue as our previous guest. Look at the shoulder. The shoulder's, again, leveling out. Now, this could be maybe to help him with his weighting because maybe he was too far off-centered, so he's trying to figure it out with his weighting. We can see that the shoulder tilt matches the spine, the club shaft. So you can see that one will affect the other. And when that occurs, now we got to do some makeup too. So not only do we have a shoulder tilt issue, we get to the top of the swing, that shoulder tilt issue actually helps him get to that secondary plane line. But that's a false secondary plane line based on his positions of his shoulders. So there's something wrong now. Now his hands are out of whack compared to his shoulder tilt. So now we've got two things that offset one issue, and it worked out. However, there's always sacrifice to that, and let's see where the sacrifice is. So let's draw a back brace line here and watch what happens as he strikes a golf ball. So there's that shaft humping. Now, that's a lack of better word. I know there's a new term they use nowadays, but I call it shaft humping. And this is his new spine angle. So we went from Barney Purple to shaft hump red, matching the light back there. Why is that happen? So shaft hump red is because he needs to make some room for his shoulders to tilt. Because of that loss of tilt on the way back, he's going to have more tilt on the way down. That's just the way it works. So what we're talking about is this one. Definitely you will see some shoulder tilt issues. So let's go to the top here and let's see how much his shoulders. Now we're looking for about 30 degrees. So there is, 30 degrees difference between the two. Now we go down to impact. Look at this. So this should be 59. It is 76. So we see too much. That's almost, what is that? 48 degrees, 47 degrees. Man, my math is so bad. 47 degrees. So it should be 30. So he has 15 more degrees of tilt to able to hit the golf ball. Now, when your shoulders are tilting so much under, you've got to make some room because they're not going around, they're going under. So what's the one way you can make some room is to stand up to give yourself some spacing. Because if you don't stand up and you have excess tilt, here's the question of the night. What are you going to hit if you have excess tilt and you stay in your posture? Think about that while I take this drink of swoon iced tea. So think about it. If I'm in my posture and my right shoulder starts to tilt down into the golf ball and I'm adding tilt, what am I going to hit? I'm going to hit the ground. I'm going to hit the ground about 3 feet behind the golf ball, break my shaft, break my wrist. So my body says, no, 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 no. I'm not going to do that to myself. While I get this excess tilt, I better stand up to get my shoulder away from the ground while I strike the golf ball. And we see him stand up and lose posture. So we see a much taller impact position. We see shaft humping because when you get taller. And what does that do to your weighting? Instead of rotating and pushing off, you're basically standing up and just turning and going through the motions. So we don't see a lot of force from this position to this position. We just see standing up and just trying to face the target and get my hands involved to cross the line over again. Where we should see the weighting moving this way. So we should see a lot of weight pushing and receiving here. So you watch really good players that have more upright swings, and this person should have an upright swing because they're a little bit taller. Their right foot stays planted through that impact zone because they're pushing, they're staying down and pushing this way. It receives on the left side, it clears their hips. They can stay in their posture because the weight's going back to this imaginary wall. Everything's being pulled away from the golf ball. When you pull away from the golf ball, you can now create adequate spacing. He couldn't do that because of the tilting issue. So if we try to teach him to push back to the wall without correcting the shoulder tilt issue, he's going to miss the ball completely. He's going to quit golf. So again, when you don't know what you're working on, when you don't know the cause and effect for things, and you start typing down YouTube and you try and figure out what video is best going to help you based on, I need more yardage, I need more distance, I need to hit the straighter, it doesn't work for you. You have to work with somebody reputable. If you can't afford it, that's why this channel's here, to help educate you. So at least you can go and record your videos and watch and kind of learn about your cause and effect, because everybody is so different. I mean, you take a look, they did a study on Tiger Woods when he was in his prime, and they looked at the amount of bone separation in his wrists, the synovial fluid in his wrists, and that made a huge difference on the way he hinged and released his wrists. So basically, they're saying if Tiger didn't have the correct amount of synovial fluid in his wrists, he might not have been Tiger. So why would you try and emulate your swing on Tiger when you don't have the synovial fluid in your wrist, when you don't have the elasticity that he has, when you don't have the work ethic that he has, the pure talents, the hand-eye coordination? Most of us, it's amazing when I teach somebody, the first thing I would ask them to do is, hey, do me a favor, throw this golf ball as far as you can. And that will basically tell me somebody's ability to hit a golf ball. Because if you have zero ability to throw a ball as far as you can, I'm looking at your weight distribution. I'm looking at the way you hinge and hold. I'm looking at the way you rotate, the way you deal with your balance. And you'll be amazed. I give a student that hits the ball decently, a golf ball to throw, they can't throw it. They can't throw it 30 feet. It doesn't look good. So all I do for the first full lesson is we learn how to throw a ball correctly, get some distance, get some power. And then we can now work into the motions of the golf swing. So just be very cautious when you are looking at YouTube. And I know it's great, man. If I had YouTube 25 years ago when I got in this business, it would have made things a lot easier in terms of educating myself. But education and application are two different things. Don't apply stuff because it works for somebody else. Only apply it if it works for you, but you have to know which one it works on. So hopefully, if this is you, if you're in the channel, if you're in the comments, hopefully this helps you. If not, and you catch us on the replay, let me know if that did affect you or help you. Next up, this one is a bunch of videos. We're going to watch this together. So apparently, I hope he's in the chat here. Apparently, he hits his irons pretty good. Little fade. However, he can't hit his driver. So we're just going to watch this and see if we can pick up on some stuff. You're getting fat, Landry? Yeah, join the club, buddy. Okay, so that's a driver swing. He has it. You saw that top. Some disconnection here. Kind of running out of room as well. Open shoulders. He does a good job though, is keeping these hands out in front of his chest as good as he can. But there goes that miss he's talking about. So very low launch angle. I hope he's in the chat so I can ask him questions. Club face is slightly open there. Disconnected. Has to get his hands involved. Again, low launch angle. Oh, that is why there's a low launch angle. Okay. So big forward press. Hands out in front of the chest. Doing a pretty decent job. Disconnection. Stuck on the left side and there. Okay, so we do have, this is what the famed chicken wing is. Now remember, chicken wings, don't try and cure a chicken wing. You've got to cure the cause for the chicken wing because, again, the hands and arms are there to try and save whatever position you are giving it. So let's just talk really quickly. If you are a follower of this channel and you see all my diagnosis on amateurs and professionals, you will know now the benefits and issues that you can run into with forward pressing. Now, it has to be done correctly. So if you are by any chance watching this, please pay attention, whoever this user is. We're going to look at the setup based on your shoulders. Okay, so it always comes down to shoulder tilt. So there's your shoulder tilt. And then what you want to do is figure out where your spine is. Now, obviously, spines are not straight. They're crooked. So we're just going to eyeball this and keep it as straight as we can based on the shoulder tilt. Okay, so the spine angle, you can kind of see it there. So the spine does a good job. It goes through the hands. So that's okay. But based on that setup for the weekend golfer, the ball position should be where that yellow circle is. That's where the ball position should be because it's not truly connected to the spine. And now when you strike the golf ball from this position, which way are your hands going to be moving? They're going to be moving up. The club head and the club face is moving up as you strike the golf ball. The problem with the way he's set up now is which way is it going to be striking. It's going to be going down and down. So you don't want to be swinging down with a driver. That's not, an iron you can do it. You can get away with a little forward press in the iron, but drivers, you shouldn't be doing this unless you are very gifted and have it ingrained in your swing since a child and you can figure it out. But for us, that's not good because what we're doing is we're getting our forward press so far ahead of our centeredness that you can see what we've done is if we draw a circle there, take a look at the center of your circle now. This is, again, just eyeballing it, right? So basically, that's the axis that he has set up this golf ball on. And now look at the axis of the shoulders. They're completely going in the wrong direction. They're kind of contradicting each other. So now he has to reconnect them somehow in the golf swing. And if you need to reconnect them in 1 second, remember, downswing is 0.2 to 0.3 seconds. Backswing is 0.8 to 0.7 seconds. You're in trouble. That's just a lot of issues going on. Now, doesn't mean you can't do it. You might be able to do it once in a while, once out of every 7 or 8 golf swings. That's great. And then you confuse yourself because you say, I did it once. Surely I can do it again. The problem is that you can't unless you have God-gifted timing. And if you did, you'd be on the tour. So let's keep that realistic. Let's back these out now and talk about and see his attempt to add loft to the club. Because the problem is now you can see, I mean, that's probably, with that forward press, if he has a 9-degree driver static, that's probably sitting at like a 2-degree driver now. That's like a putter. So now he's got to figure out, how do I add loft? Because if I hit this, and we saw his shots, they were so low. They were like squirrel's nightmares. They was that low. And I'm sure the ones that he hit high were pop-ups when he went straight down and just popped it up. So he either gets pop-ups or very lows. But we're going to take a look at his effort to try and add loft. So you can see he's stuck on his left side because when he forward pressed it, he also opened up his shoulders. He didn't forward press it and tilt. So you can forward press and tilt. So if I have my hands here, you see there's a camera. And if I tilt, my hands move forward. If I turn, my hands move forward. There's 2 ways to get the hands forward. He turned. Now, when you turn, that's going to change your plane to be very steep. So now he's got a steep plane, and he's got a ball position set like an iron, and he has to swing up. So he's stuck now because the weight was stuck on the left side because of that setup. Now, all he has to do to try and get some loft is he's got to figure out, I better get my hands involved to try and scoop it, to try and add some loft. And we can see the scooping action here with his hands, and you can't blame his hands because they're trying to get the ball up in the air. And when he strikes it, he might be getting decent loft. There might be like a 7-degree loft, but there's no way he's going to increase his launch angle with that. So his launch angle is probably like 5 degrees because he's still swinging slightly down. So this is where his setup is really going to cause some issues with him. So basically, you're going to look at, let's look at it another way. So let me try and do this with this is going to be about as good as an eyeball as I can do. We're trying to get 90. Oh, almost. Okay, so 90 degrees. Now we can see if you take 90 degrees from your golf ball to your shoulder tilt, the closer you are to your right shoulder is the better you want to be. Now, I would say that your right shoulder is the furthest you want to forward press. So the less forward press, the more you're going to be closer towards your center. You look at somebody that has no forward press, that golf ball is connected to the center of their chest. So let's say he was connected correctly and his golf ball was teed up in this area, then that to me would be perfect because not only are his hands connected to his chest, his golf ball is connected to his chest, everything's connected to that tilt on the chest. But where he is now, it's not connected. It's connected in no man's land back here. So basically, there's two ways for him to hit this golf ball. Number one is he could slide his whole body over this way to get that center aligned back over here where it should be. But now he's trapped. Now he's got so much weight on the right side, there's no way to hit that golf ball. But because he's also got so much weight on the left side now with this setup, it's very unnatural to go from way left to way right. Then you'll have no turn. So now he's going to have a very what do you call that motion? Lateral motion instead of rotational and slightly lateral. So when you're at home, you do your forward videos, try and line them up. Keep in mind of who you are. Keep in mind of your talent. Keep in mind of your ability. You're not a pro. Most of us cannot do this without being centered. So make sure you're centered. So that's step number one to help you out. Get your golf ball more centered. So for you, get your feet together. I'm going to draw stickman time. Stickman time. All right. So there's one foot. This is how you want to be when you start. There's your left foot. Okay. So your 2 feet are together. You want to put the ball position so it's right in between your 2 feet. Now you want to take, a bigger step right, obviously, and then a small step left. That's good. But then you also want to get your shoulders so they're not opening. They want to be square to your target. So pull that right shoulder back, and that's going to help you pull this right hand to be matching in the center. Then you start to change your ball position related to that. So I would imagine that if you want to get some loft, you want to tee this ball up over here. So maybe just inside your left foot. Get your hands behind the ball. Get your ball connected to your chest and stay centered. And just turn and turn. Immediately, I promise you, if you stay centered, you don't get all lateral on me, and you take away this forward press, I guarantee you'll start launching the ball 10 times as high as you do now with ease. Not only that, but you'll put the correct amount of backspin on there. You'll have the correct launch angle. That club's going to start to do its job for you instead of you fighting. Okay, but let's go back and see from this line. So we can definitely see, look at that right shoulder. So we know he's got a forward press. His right shoulder is covering the golf ball. So his shoulders are aiming way left to help him get that forward press. So now he's going to have some issues, but he does a pretty decent job all in all. I mean, all things considered from this side, without seeing that face on, it would be hard to diagnose this, which is why it's very important to send face on and down the line because he does a decent job. You can see his setup is pretty good. If we look at his centeredness, we draw from the arch of the heel straight to the sky. He's got a pretty athletic setup. Besides that forward press, man, if you just get that forward press taken care of, you'll actually be hitting the ball pretty well. And remember, that's probably why you hit the irons pretty good because, you want to slide forward press. And since you forward press anyway with the driver, you probably get away with it more because you need to go down. Here you're trying to add loft and you fall back. So if you take a look at his swing here, let's see what happens with his plane work. He does a good job. Look at that, right on plane. Club face is pretty square to the spine angle. Shoulder tilting, I don't see much shoulder tilting issues. Maybe a slight left shoulder raise, but it's not too bad. He gets that secondary plane line, and he does a pretty good job here. Club face is, you can see it's kind of hooded. It's a little bit open and hooded. Arms get clear back behind his centeredness, so that's plenty of room. So basically his arms should try to drop down, and you see it drops down decently, but it doesn't quite drop down enough. Okay, so this is where you want to start to look at if anybody has issues from the down the line, is you want to draw a triangle here. We'll draw this in, you know what, let's do Barney Purple. He hasn't made his appearance in a while. There's Barney Purple. And we take a look at that. So let's take a look. He follows it down right there. See how it goes pretty good to there. And then all of a sudden it goes above it. Now that aboving, it by it going above is because he started with these open shoulders and now he's turning through and that's going to pull his hands above. So basically you wanted to think about 2-to-1 ratio. It's 2 clicks down for 1 click left for righties. So your hands should be dropping and then you turn. They keep dropping as you turn. The majority of the drop happens before you meet your centeredness. So his centeredness is where that X is. So the majority of the drop happens. He's doing good. I would like to see, you can see it's passing over there. I'd like to see his hand still back over here because now that'll help him stay below that centered line. And he gets pretty good. But for here, you want your arms to be a little bit lower so you get a little bit more underneath the plane for the driver so then he can start to learn to swing up. But obviously, for obvious reasons, we can see why he can't do that because of his forward press and his open shoulders. So I wouldn't even focus on anything in the back and this view until you work on the setup. You might be amazed that once you get that setup changed, it might change your whole downswing. Let's see, is this the same swing or a different one? Hey, Landry, sorry. I just saw your comments. So are you saying you hit thins or fats? Okay, let's look at that one because he said he hits the irons pretty good. Sorry, I'm trying to look at all these screens at the same time. I'm just a golf pro, I'm lucky we got this thing going live right now. Oh, sorry, Landry. I go on a tangent. I didn't see I didn't see the the comments. Apologize for that. All right, so let's look at this view here. Okay, good. That's much better. So even here, you can see it's much tighter. So what we're looking for is, let's zoom in. So what we're looking at here is, if you guys and girls are at home looking at your swing, what you want to do is kind of look at this midway point and see if there is, this is your best swing, okay, and see if there is a connection between your hands and your club head relative to that lower plane line. And here the hands are a little bit higher. Now, if the hands are higher, that means you're losing shoulder tilt. That means your left shoulder is not down enough. So we can see a slight loss of shoulder tilt here already relative to that yellow line. You would like that to be perpendicular. So in other words, 90 degrees from that line. As a result, the hands get a little bit higher and your hands feel that and your wrists feel that. And the club usually falls below that to counteract that. The better players, you see them get really good at feeling out where that club needs to be. So I've seen some really good players get their hands, in an obscene position where their hands are way out here, but their club is back here. They've just figured out that that's how they hit the golf ball. So ideally, in a nice situation, if you can get to this position, that's pretty good. If you want to tighten it up, Landry, you might want to get that left shoulder to stay down more as you take that club back, because that'll keep your hands on that plane line, maybe even slightly below it, and then get the club head on that plane line or slightly above it. You take a look at probably the best players in the world. They typically have their hands slightly below it and their club slightly above it because they want to control that club head as it's coming up above the plane. They never want to get that club below the plane because now they have to stall and just let that club catch up and flip at the very end. So we'll see if you do that. But all in all, it looks pretty good, though. Your setup's pretty good. Secondary plane line, we see a little bit of loss of shoulder tilt here. So again, you can see that left shoulder issue. That's going to bring your hands a little bit lower. They should be at that secondary plane line. You get them there, but you get them there by raising them. And we can see that your club head will always find where it needs to be. So this is why you get a laid off position. So let's put it this way. So if this is your shoulder tilt, and you can see at the top of the swing, that's basically where your shoulder tilt is. look at where the club head is, what it's doing. The club head is trying to find the shoulder tilt. So you can get away with it by getting your hands way up over here, and I see a lot of good players do that, but their club is usually finding the shoulder tilt because that's a secondary plane line. On the contrary, if you see somebody with steep uh, tilt, where they add tilt, their hands could be down here to compensate that. Their club head will be up here. So the better players always find where it needs to happen. It's just the way it works. So that's just the cause and effect for that. We see good spine angle, though. You maintain your posture, good distribution of weight. We see the rotation of your hips doing well. Shoulders are doing really good. Hands are still out in front of the chest. They haven't crossed way over here. If we draw from your centeredness up to the sky, we can see the butt of the club finds it. Look at that. It's perfect where it stops. So all in all, it's looking really good. And we can see from here, this is where that issue is. And it also stems off into your irons too, as it does with your driver. We draw that triangle and we take a look at where the natural tendency of that hands should go. And we see they go right down that line, right down the line. Good. Again, depends on what you want. I mean, if you want to get shallower, that's the new way to go. For some people it works, for some people it doesn't. I don't recommend it. I think this is good. You have your quirks. Your club is a little bit laid off because of your hand position, because of your shoulder tilt. So would I change any of them? No. I wouldn't bother fixing your hands because they're there for a reason, because your shoulder tilt. So it's up to you. If you want to change this top position, you can change it right away by getting that left shoulder down. And then your body will learn to compensate correctly, just how it's learned to compensate correctly based on what it's given. So just change the big things. Let the little things figure themselves on their own. As you come down into it, you find that lower plane line. Looks pretty good. Shoulder tilt. Yeah, you see that excess shoulder tilt. And this is interesting too. So this is something I found out, that when we lose shoulder tilt at the top, we gain more shoulder tilt than we need at the bottom, just because that right shoulder's closer to the bottom anyway. So there's 29. As you get down past one frame past impact, right there, we see a huge gain. So we see, again, what is that? 41 degrees? Yeah, 40. Man, my math, I'm usually pretty good. 41 degrees. So you're about 10 degrees more than tour average. I don't think it's, put it this way, I don't think it's because you are able to do 10 more degrees. I think it's because of the shoulder tilt position. Because if you get your shoulders to be perpendicular to your spine, you will have 30 degrees of that tilt perfectly. I think it's up to you. I would personally like to see your hands get lower to that plane line by getting your left shoulder tilt down a little bit sooner, just to help you maintain your posture. But it's up to you, obviously. If you want to, I don't know if you can afford golf lessons, but if you want to just send me a periodic update, and we can do a before and after video and just kind of keep you guys on track, I welcome anybody that I've done a video on to send me. So the shoulder tilt issue begins at address, correct? Yes and no. So shoulder tilt begins for you at the first part of the backswing. I would say your shoulder turn right now is a little bit open. So you can square that out. And who knows? I think it's because you forward pressure irons. I don't see an iron face on here. I would imagine it's forward pressing the irons and you can get away with them more. So maybe the same sort of thing with the irons. Get your hands more connected to the center of your chest by closing this shoulder to align it back to your target. Because if you take a look here, you can see that your shoulders are slightly open to the target. So they're kind of pointing a little bit open if we kind of match up where they are. And we can tell that because I can see a lot of this right arm and I can see the whole left forearm. So that usually means that you're like this. So just square them out, and then that might initially help you, because when they are open, it might change your tilting. So first of all, try the setup change, take a few videos, and then just, I don't know if you have software, but you can just draw a simple line here, and then 90 degrees from that line, you just want to kind of eyeball it. So that's about 90. And then you want to look at, okay, where's my shoulder now? Okay, my left shoulder's going higher. I've got to get that left shoulder down. And so go to the top of the swing and then see how your tilt is there. And then just make slow changes. And it's always revolving around your grip, alignment, setup, posture, because that is what controls your golf swing. Do not change positions, because positions are there based on your starting position. And any athlete will evolve around the starting position. It's basically what you're trying to do, Landry, is if you can imagine archery. Okay, I have this bow and arrow. I'm going to fire it at my target. But for whatever reason, I'm going to aim my bow and arrow 20 feet right at my target. And if I let go of my bow, where's my arrow going to go? It's always going to go 20 feet right. So if I don't change the starting point, I would have to learn. While I release the bow, I would have to learn to do this and then time that release to get it somewhere near my target. If I have really good timing, I can do it pretty good overall. But if my timing's off, that bow's going too far right. That bow might go too far left. That's basically what you're doing to your swing right now. So that's why I say it always comes down to practice. If you are able to hit thousands of balls a week, you can develop the timing, no problem. But the issue with that is, let's say you have a job and you got to go out of town for a couple of weeks and you come back to play golf. What happens? You just hit it like crap until you find your timing again. So most people have to deal with timing in the golf swing. You want a golf swing where you have to deal with it the least amount, because that's when you can miss it straighter. It's about your dispersions, left and right, short and long. You miss it straighter, then you can focus on your misses, and then you can focus on your short game, and then you can focus on putting. That's the best way to take care of your golf game in total. So it is 8:45. We've been at it for 45 minutes. If you guys got any questions, let me know. Other than that, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I've got a day tomorrow, a long day, and it unfortunately does not include me playing golf. Hopefully, I need to get out there soon. So thank you for everybody who sent me your videos. Thank you for those that I found on Reddit when I was modding, just getting rid of some of the bad stuff out there. Appreciate you supporting this. Hopefully, you learned something from this. Help spread the word. We're going to try and do this every Sunday at 8 o'clock. So spread your word to your friends. Jump online. Tell them to send me some videos. I want to try and make this an open forum to help you, the amateur, to get correct advice for your swing instead of just playing a game of lottery by looking at YouTube and learning from other people that just, don't mean to do you harm, but kind of do with their bad advice. So hope that helps you. What is the best swing thought for the 2 clicks down, 1 click left? If you have a medicine ball or something heavy, I think the best advice to do is, so swing thoughts again are very challenging, because a swing thought for me might make complete sense, but for you it's like, what is that? I'm always about the feel. So when I work with somebody, I give them the feel by either putting them in the position or give them something to replicate that position. And then I ask them, what does that swing thought feel like to you? And they come up with their own swing thoughts so they can remember it. And it's just their swing thought. So I think for you, the best way to do this is get a medicine ball and get that medicine ball up to the top of your backswing. And then you want to feel like you are just dropping your hands with the weight of the medicine ball first. So you want to feel like you're throwing that medicine ball high with a high release. So in order to do that, you have to drop your hands and then you turn and then you release the hands much higher. Do that a bunch of times. Video it too to make sure it's the right motion. And when you are doing it, let's say it is the right motion, do it again and keep doing it 15, 20 times and come up with your own swing thoughts of how you can translate it to a golf swing. Because if you can do that, it's your swing thought. It's not somebody else's swing thought that works for them. It's yours. So hopefully that helps you. But other than that, I will try and do a couple of regular videos this week, barring I have enough time. But Sundays is going to be our day. The red light, we put it on for you guys. Open season. Other than that, hope you guys have a good time. Thanks for the support again. Fairways and greens.